everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Dr. Quesero TV, and to my program, Ask the Cheese Doctor. This version is the English version of my Spanish program, or of my program in Spanish, Pregúntale al Dr. Quesero. This is dedicated for the people who speaks English. However, if you want to know what I say because you don't speak English, you can now. I trying to implement the platform Streamer. So if you get the code, if you speak Spanish, you'll just open an account in streamer.center. I'm gonna put the link here in the comments. Streamer.center and open an account and use the code invitado01. Okay, you have to open an account, and the name of the room is Dr. Quesero. So you can open it, and you can access. You can know you will have my captions here when I speak in English, and you will have it in your language. Okay. Well, let's talk about the announcement. I'm going to change my Spanish program. I'm going to change it to 10 o'clock because I made a poll, and 61% advised to make the program at 10 o'clock. If I make it at 10 o'clock, the 11 o'clock program is going to be very tight. The time frame is going to be very tight. So I'm going to move a little bit to 11:15. So I'm going to move this program to 11:15, so you guys I can have the time to organize everything and stuff. Okay. So from next week, the English program will be at 11:15 New Zealand time. Okay. I'm also going to make a new section, cooking with the cheese doctor. Of course, the videos are gonna be. I'm gonna make videos of cooking food related to cheese. For example, I'm going to make a cheese. I can make a cheesecake. I can make. I'm gonna make in my. I'm working in a video. I'm gonna make ice cream using yogurt. Yogurt ice cream. So and I'm gonna make videos with cooking food related to cheese. Okay, that's the idea. Otherwise, there's no point to make another video. There's a heaps of videos of people cooking, but mine is gonna be only with dairy, with dairy products. Okay. No new members this week. Okay, and I really appreciate for the ones that are ongoing in the program. I really appreciate it. And I just want to show you my new shirt, which is the name, my new shirt. Finally it arrived. It's the one that I'm offering in the channel. So if you want to have one of these, go for it. You can buy it, and it's only 35 something. It's not a biggie. Okay, today we're going to speak about cheese, about food control plans for cheese making. Okay, I have the presentation here, and I'm going to talk about it today. And when we'll go later on. Okay, let me carry on with the announcement. This is my iPad. I'm going to carry on with the announcements. I'm working tomorrow. I'm gonna release a new video. It's gonna be the Stracchino tasting. Okay, the Stracchino was already ripened. The cheese was very good. However, the flavor was really strong because of the bacteria that ripen the cheese. But it was very good. For example, at least in my case, I like strong flavors in cheese. Some people don't like strong flavors, but anyway. And I'm gonna release tomorrow the video. I'm also gonna teach you how to make. I'm working in this video now. My team is working on the production part, which is I'm gonna teach you how to make provolone cheese, which is a cheese from Italy. I'm gonna make paneer as well, I'm gonna teach you how to make paneer and yogurt ice cream. And I'm gonna teach you how to make an Argentinian cheese or an Argentinian style cheese called sardo, queso sardo. It's a cheese from Argentina. I'm gonna teach you how to make it. It's not a biggie, but if you guys are around the world, in Nigeria, in Africa, well, in Africa is part of Nigeria, Nigeria is part of Africa, but China, in India, if you guys in Lebanon or Saudi Arabia, if you guys are over there, you can make all these type of cheeses because I'm gonna teach you how to make them. Okay. Okay. Let's go. I'm gonna turn off my iPad and we'll go with the lesson. Let's go and talk about the health and safety system for cheese making. Let me share the screen. I haven't done it yet. I'm gonna share the screen. My computer is a little bit faster today. I have to clean all this stuff inside. Now it's getting a little bit faster. But anyway, let's talk about if you guys want to make a comment, you're more than welcome. Okay. Okie dokie. Now let's go. I just remind you that we are trying to, here we are. Okie dokie. Okay. Now this is our program number 18 or 17. I reckon it's 18. I made a mistake here. Okay. I'm going to speak about the health and safety system for cheese making. When we make cheese, it's very important that our product is safe. Otherwise, people that eat our product might get sick, and if they get sick, they might die. So it's very important that we make a safe product for our consumer, even for our family. If we are making cheese at home, for example, and our cows are sick with aphthous or brucellosis or meningitis, this virus or these bacteria are going to pass to the milk and therefore to the cheese. And when we eat them, we're going to get the same disease. This is what happened with COVID. With COVID-19, people in China used to eat some kind of animals. I don't know which one. I reckon it was bats, but I'm not sure. The thing is that this virus or these bacteria pass through the human being and they got sick. And this is the problem that we had, the pandemic that we have now. So it's very important that when we make this product, we have to make a system that works. And to make the to implement this system, we have our system need to work. And how do we know that the system works? Because our product is safe. If for any reason our product have an issue, for example, it's been contaminated with any bacteria, we have to be able in our system to trace the product and to trace the batch that we made, and we have to be able to trace which part of the system didn't work. In this way, our system will work, and therefore we can make the adjustment and carry on with the process. Okay. So when we make a system, sometimes, okay, where do I start? I don't know. We don't know what to do. We don't know where to start because making a system is very complex, very complex. As a matter of fact, this is going to be one of, I reckon, 2 or 3 or 4 more presentations because the topic is very long to develop. So, and I have to answer as well the question from my audience. But the thing is that when we make this system, we have to have a starting point, and sometimes we don't know where to start. So The first thing that we need to that we need to understand is what country am I? What laws do does apply in my country? Okay, so we have to go to the websites of the Ministry or Primary Industries, for example. In New Zealand, is like that. In your country, might be another ministry that you have to go with the government and ask for the regulations for cheese making products, and then they're gonna have um, premises that you need to comply with. Okay. The other thing that you have to consider, if you milk animals, you have to have a separate system. Or if you sell raw milk, you necessarily don't have to sell cheese to make cheese. Maybe you are selling only milk, so you have to have a system for selling milk. And maybe you are milking your own animals, so you have to have and selling the milk, so you have to have a system how to milk your animals in a safely manner, and how to sell your milk. You can also make dairy products. What I mean by dairy products is yogurt, cheese, butter, ghee, anything related to dairy. You have to have a system in place that works. As I said before, your system, for a system to work, it needs to be traceable. This is a very important word. If your system is not traceable, which means that you don't know what's happening to your system. And I'm going to put an example. If you sell 1 kilo of cheese to someone, and or let's say if you make 10 kilos of cheese, and this 10 kilos of cheese, you give it to 20 people. If you're not able to know which person did you sell your product, your 20 kilos, your system doesn't work. So you have to be able to trace each person. And because if something goes wrong, you might be able to give in a call, hey, there's a problem with the cheese, please don't eat it because it's contaminated with poison, whatever. Okay. So also you also have to have a system if you are storing or transporting your dairy product. You have to have a system in place that works. And if you resell product, because if you are a cheese monk, for example, and you are reselling, you are importing cheeses from France just to tell a name, and you are reselling in your country, you have to have a system that avoid your cheese not to get contaminated from the environment or whatever, for the handling. Okay. In our case, we're going to make cheese, so we're not gonna sell milk. We're just gonna make cheese. We're not gonna resell cheeses, anything. We're just going to make cheese. For making cheese, we have to consider certain parameters. One of them is designing your cheese making process. You have to, and a cheese making process is a series of steps that you need to comply in order to get a safe product. Okay. And you have to prove that your system or the way that you make the cheese works every time. And to know if your system works every time, you have to make the cheese the same way every time. It's not that you are, for example, if in your system you allow that you have to sanitize your pots before you pour the milk, you have to do it every time. It's not that because you're lazy this time, I'm not gonna. I just cleaned it yesterday, and it's all right. I didn't. It's clean, and I put it upside down, so the dust or the spores or the gas that flows are on the way on the air, they're not gonna go into the pot, and I'm gonna make the cheese like this. No, you have to do it all the time the same way. If your system says you have to spray your pot with alcohol or with vinegar or whatever, or with hot water, or you have to wash it up or clean it again with soap. If it is in your system like this, you have to comply every time, because this is the only way that we don't make mistakes. If you change the methodology each time, you're not gonna be sure that your system is failing in this part. So you have to do all the time the same. So it's also very important that your suppliers are reliable. You have to make you them that your supply is reliable, and you have to be able to trace your raw material. For example, if you're buying milk, you have to know the name of your supplier. You have to know where it lives or where it works. If you are receiving lactic cultures from overseas, you have to know where they are. You have to know their phone number, their contact details. You have to know the batch that of the product that they sold you. And if you have any recall, if you have a problem, you know that if the batch of the lactic culture, to put an example, fails because it's contaminated with anything, you have to call your supplier, and you know that your supplier needs to call you and tell you, hey, this product, this lactic culture that I sold is contaminated with anything. There was a case here in New Zealand when Fonterra is the company that sells milk here in New Zealand. They were manufacturing baby formula, which is milk for babies. And one of the batches, of many thousands of kilos fell. It was contaminated with something. I don't remember what. They call everyone around the world, because Fonterra is a very big company that exports milk, and they have to take out of the market all this milk and burn it. The same happened with cheeses, but at a lower scale, at a smaller scale. So if something goes wrong, your supplier needs to call you, and then you know, okay, this batch that I use, but you have to know that you use this batch. Or if you make several cheeses with the same culture, you have to know the batches that you made, which product or which batches have this culture. This is to put an example, okay? Another thing to consider when you make cheese is that you have to separate the food that you cook at home and the equipment with the equipment and the milk and the milk that you use for cheese making. You can't not use the same milk for your house than for and for cheese making, because it might get contaminated. Okay. Another thing to consider is when you are making cheeses, especially if the cheeses are fresh, like mozzarella, like chèvre, like fresh cheese, you have to pasteurize your milk. If you're using raw milk as a raw material, you have to pasteurize if you're gonna sell cheeses, fresh cheeses. But if you're gonna make ripened cheeses, aged cheese, like let's say Havarti or like Roquefort or any cured cheeses, Paipa cheese, which is cheese from Colombia, or if you're gonna make Parmigiano Reggiano or Parmigiano style, or if you're gonna make Parma or Manchego, or even Swiss cheeses or Dutch cheeses, you have, and you use it, and if you are using raw milk, you have to ripen your cheese for more than 2 months. The minimum is 2 months and 1 day. After 2 months, you can sell it without any problem. It's not illegal, it's legal. But if you are selling your cheeses before 2 months and you're using raw milk, which is unpasteurized, is illegal and you can be in trouble. Okay. Another thing to consider when you are making cheese you have to control pH. You have to measure your pH. You have to do the same all the time, which means that if you establish in your system that you are making to put a cheese, let's say we are making feta cheese, which is a cheese from Greece. If we are making feta, so we have to know that to make feta, we have to weigh off at pH 4.6. If we weigh off at pH 4.9 or 5, our feta maybe is not going to be so safe, and therefore it will be contaminated. Okay, so you have to establish in your system, and it's also in your recipe, you have to establish that your pH is always the same. And before you measure your pH, you have to calibrate your pH meter. And to calibrate your pH meter, you have to have a protocol. You have to have a procedure. And the procedure should be the same all the time. You can't change the procedure. And you have to establish everything that I'm talking about. You have to put it in black and white and in your system. You have to establish a protocol. How to calibrate pH meter. First, sanitize your pH meter. Second, I'm just putting an example. Second, you have to turn it on. Third, you have to turn it off and stick it into the probe solution. The probe solution needs to be replaced every 10 calibrations, to put an example. And you have to follow the same procedure every time that you make cheese. Okay, so another thing to consider, if you have to avoid foreign objects in your food. For example, when we are making cheese, we use raw milk, and sometimes the milk is we have flies into the milk. We have rest of haste. I reckon it's haste. Yeah, maybe dust or maybe anything, leaf, whatever. Some kind of insects. So because the cows are on the even I don't know, how do you say in English, the droppings of the cows, when they made the droppings, these droppings are sometimes very soft and they splash, and this rest of material can come into the milk and can contaminate it. And this is E. coli that is into your milk. So you have to filter your milk. You have to filter it, and to avoid these foreign matters into your milk. And how do you do that? There are some filters that you put in the hoses from the pump of the tank, and therefore they filter your milk. After that, you have to pasteurize it, but this is another story. Okay, the idea is that you can have foreign matters in your food. Sometimes your salt is also with foreign matters. You have to clean it. You have to clean your salt, and the way to clean your salt, because it's very hard, what I do, even in New Zealand, my salt sometimes is contaminated with black spots, which is foreign matters. What I use is I just put water. I just weigh my salt, pour some water, dissolve everything, and just the liquid I just put into my cheese. And all the foreign matters stays on the bottom, so I don't use it. So my cheese doesn't get contaminated in this way. Okay. What else do we have to do? When we make the product, we have to prepare our cheeses for sale. One story is to make the cheese. Another story is to prepare your cheeses for sale. If you are selling cheeses, if you're not selling, you can forget about this part. But if you are selling cheeses, you have to you have to know what's in your food. Okay, what is inside your food, if your product is safe, and you have to know if your product have allergens that might um, affect the consumer, and you have to release it. You have to release it in your label. When the labeling is very important when we make cheese. You have to include in your labeling. You have to include the nutrition facts, all the allergens. If the smell is, if it has, for example, peanut traces, or milk is an allergen by nature. It's an allergen, so you have to release this product contains milk, so people can see and see the label. I know I'm not going to eat it because I'm allergic to milk. To put an example, so you have to, and there is these are protocols that you have to follow when to make a label. Each country have their own protocols, but anyway, most of them follow international standards, and which are more or less the same. So you have to follow this. You have to put keep refrigerated, among other things. It will. If you want to know more about packaging and labeling, you have to go to your country and read the specification for labeling for dairy products in your country. Okay. Also, that you when you are making cheeses for sale, you have to prepare protocols for storage and transport and display as well. For example, you can, if your protocol says that you can expose your cheeses to white light because it might get oxidated, to put an example, or you have to display your cheese and in a shelf at 3 degrees Celsius, because you can't display your cheese just on a table exposed to the heat of the environment. No, the cheeses need to be displayed and at a certain temperature. The same if you're gonna store them. If you're gonna store your cheese, if you're going to put it in your fridge, you have to put it in a certain way. It's not putting the cheese and that's it. Because when you are putting your cheese one on the top of over on the other, if you put too many, there's too much weight for the last one, and the package might explode. To put an example, just to say something, to say an example, okay? So you have to be careful with that. You have to follow protocol. You can't pack max. If your system established, I can store no more than 10 units one over the other. Okay, that's all right. If your system works like this, go for it. But if it's not that you're going to put one day 10 and the next day because you don't have space, you're going to put 20, because your packaging will suffer. So you have to follow the same procedure all the time. Okay. One thing that you have to consider as well, because what I'm telling you is, okay, everything is very beautiful, but sometimes we have problems, and sometimes our cheeses, and sometimes our system doesn't work and something goes wrong. So in this way, if something goes wrong, we also have to have a system. We have to have a protocol that we need to follow if something goes wrong. And you have to establish in your system. Okay? When something goes wrong, means that you have to deal with your customer complaints. Because sometimes your customer call you, hey, I have problem with my cheese. It got contaminated with mold. And you have to know which batch did you sell to them. And after that, you have to be able to trace your product, as I said at the beginning of the presentation. Okay. And you have to make a recall. If your batch is very big, you have to advertise it on the news, the bad company, whatever, and the batch number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is contaminated with pesticide, or it's contaminated with allergens or whatever, or with chlorine solution or whatever. So you have to be able to trace your product. If you're not able to trace it, your system doesn't work, and you're not doing anything. You're wasting your time. Okay, and you might be in trouble because you might be a victim of fines, lawyers, and these mistakes cost time and money. So my suggestion is follow your system each time, make a record of everything, and when you start making the cheeses, you will be able to know what's happening into your system. Okay. Let me see. I reckon this is the last. Yeah. So another issue to consider is that you have to manage your risk on your factory. What I mean by factory is your factory or your home, because you might be making cheese at home. So you have to, when you are at home or in your premises, you have to evaluate each hazard of your process. You have to consider two types of hazard: the hazard in the food and the hazard with you as a person. Because you can, for example, if you are cooking in your kitchen and your floor is very slippery, you might fall and get hurt and have an accident. Or if you are using hot milk and you make it at 50 degrees and you slip, this milk can spill in the floor, burn your skin, and there's going to be a laceration on your skin, and you're going to have a problem, and you're going to have an accident. And so every time that we make cheese, we have to evaluate hazard. Okay, these are hazards everywhere. So you have to evaluate the hazard, analyze it, and put in action a protocol to mitigate the hazard. Okay. As I said, you have to do it during the food process, which is called, this process of mitigating the hazard is or analyzing the hazard is called hazard analysis critical control point, which is this that I have here. Okay? Or as a person, if you are handling, for example, if you are cutting your cord with a knife and you cut your finger, you have to follow a protocol. What happens if I get cut, if I have a laceration? You have to follow. What I do is, if I have a laceration, I stop what I'm doing, go to my first aid kit, wash everything, disinfect my wound, and put a glove. Okay, and wrap it up so the wound and the blood or on the liquids that distill in the wound doesn't pass to the cheese. So you have to use a glove and wrap it up so it doesn't pass anything. This is just an example. Okay. As I said, keep records of everything. If you have your fridge where you store your cheeses, you have to have a record of the temperature. If you are making cheese and you are measuring pH, you have to have the record of the pH. If you are calibrating, you have to have a record of all the calibrations of the cheese making process, and of all your cheese making process. So you have to register. Day 1, I calibrated my thermometer. These are the values. Day 2, I calibrated as well. Day 3, calibration, and you have to have a record of everything. Okay. The more records that you have, the more reliable your system will be. So this is very important. Okay. There are some records to keep, and others can be made as well of good practices, and you don't have to have records of it. The most record you have is right. If you can, but some of them are also common sense and good practices. For example, each time that I make cheese, I have the custom that if I go like this, okay, I have more cross contamination in my hand. So I sanitize first. If I go like this, or I use my cell phone, if I use my cell phone and I receive a call, boom. If I'm going to grab cheese, before I grab the cheese, because I already used my phone, I put my hands into chlorine solution for 1 minute, and then I grab whatever I want, whatever the thing I'm going to grab. Okay, these are good practices that you need to follow. If you are, another example would be, for example, if you are entering to your plant, it's important that you wash your hands first. It's a good practice. Or you have to sanitize the bottom of your shoes because you come in from the outside of the plant. Or it doesn't have to be a plant, it might be also as well your kitchen. If your kitchen is sanitized, because before you're making cheese, you sanitize your kitchen, and then you went to the toilet. When you come back, you went to the toilet, and the bottom of your shoes are contaminated with bacteria. So when you go to the kitchen again, you have to sanitize the bottom of your shoes, and you have to put your shoes on a mud with sanitizer, and then enter to the kitchen. Just to put an example, maybe it's not the protocol, maybe you can spread it with alcohol, whatever. I mean, the thing is that you have to follow the same protocol every time that you make the cheese. In this way, you are assuring that each time you enter to your kitchen or each time you enter to your plant, your gear is sanitized. Okay. If you don't have records, it will be more difficult for you to trace your product. As I said, the more records that you have, the easier it's going to be for you to trace your product. Okay. And if you don't follow the rules, if you don't follow your system, you will have a recall for sure. And then you will have to collect all your product, which means that all the money that you invested in the cheese is going to be lost, because you're going to have to dump this product because it's contaminated. And it costs money. You're going to get, you have to stop yourself. You're going to get fined for sure, because if you're making a unsafe product, the Ministry of Industries is going to go after you and going to put you a fine. You might even go to jail. Okay. And one of the things, you will have a very bad reputation in the market, and therefore no one's going to buy your cheeses. Okay. Well, this is what I wanted to tell you about the food control plan. This is the first part. It's going to be a second one, and I reckon 2 more. But anyway, because it's, as I said, the topic is very long. My food control plan is like this. So I have to, you can also have it in digital. The thing that it doesn't matter how you have it, but it has to work. Okay. Next week, I'm going to explain you what parameters to consider when you are making this food control plan, because I just spoke in general terms what the food control plan is, what to consider. And in the next presentation, which is going to be next week, I'm going to tell you what to consider, but specifically what parameters to consider. To put an example, how to manage bugs. You have to know, you have to follow the same protocol of how to manage bugs, for example. If you have rats or you have cockroaches, so you have to follow a protocol all the time. It's not that if you find a mouse, you just gonna kill it and that's it. No, you have to follow protocol. So just to put an example. So next week we're gonna talk about it. And as I said, if you want to learn, and the 12th of September, I'm going to make a webinar for cheese making. It's gonna be in Spanish, but if you want to know, it's gonna be translated in English. So if you want to put your shoes on and make this cheese with me, it's a cheese from Venezuela, which has a lot of holes. It's very yum. It's very stingy, not very salty, but it's very yum. So if you want to learn how to make it, it's made with pasteurized milk, and you might sell it in your country, and you are making the difference and selling a different product. And if you want to learn how to make it, I'm going to be the 12th of September at 10 a.m., not 7 a.m., from 10, and the webinar is going to last 3 hours, 10 a.m. New Zealand time, okay? If you want to register, just go to my Instagram at Dr. Quesero, okay? She's doctor in Spanish. Go to my Instagram and you can buy your ticket there, which is not a biggie, and the price is very cheap, and you can learn how to make this cheese. I'm gonna make this webinar with a Venezuelan called Ronald Maldonado, and as I said, we're gonna speak in Spanish, but you can translate with Streamer, the platform that I'm implementing now. You can have your simultaneous translation. Okay, and if you want to have t-shirts like this one, this is in Spanish, but you also can have it in English. For example, look at this. Let's make some cheese. This is I haven't had this one, but I'm gonna buy it as well, so I can have both. And so if you want to have one of these and help me with the channel, because I use this money to make videos and fund the channel, you're more than welcome. Okay, I really appreciate it. Or if you don't have the money to buy this shirt, that, by the way, they are for men and women. They're separate models. But if you want to also help me with the channel, you can just stick into the membership program and get the cheapest, which is $3, $4 per month. And this amount help me to make videos and stuff. So it's not compulsorily, it's just only if you want to do it. Okay, I'm going to carry on giving the same content and giving my best for you guys to learn how to make cheese. Okay, let's go with the Q&A. I have some questions from the audience here, and let's go. I have some questions from the audience. But if you want to learn, Manal, how are you? Manal is a very, how do you say, dedicated cheesemaker. She comes every week, and I really appreciate it. I changed the schedule of my program for you, okay? And I hope you are learning to make not only mozzarella, because you told me about making mozzarella. I hope you're making another type of cheeses. Soon you will be able to make provolone, okay, and yogurt ice cream as well. But now that you have followed my channel, you also can make stracchino, crescenza, many other cheeses. Okay, let's go with them. Let's go with the questions from the audience. I have some questions here. Let me go. One in Spanish, one in English, but never mind. There is one person asking here, how is the process to make queso asadero? Queso asadero is a cheese from Mexico. But basically, queso asadero is a mozzarella. It's the same curd. It's mozzarella. So if you know how to make mozzarella, you know how to make queso asadero. What is queso asadero? Queso asadero is the same as queso Oaxaca. Oaxaca is a mozzarella that when you are stretching it, instead of making balls like the bocconcini or the mozzarella, you make ribbons. Okay, you grab the curd and start stretching it and start making ribbons. These ribbons, you have to make a very long roll of ribbons, and then once it's cold, you start wrapping it in like a ball. Make a ball with the ribbon, boom, 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 wrapping it, and then after the ball is made, spread it with salt, and that's it. That's queso asadero or asadero cheese or Oaxaca cheese. Is the same. If you want to know more about queso asadero or Oaxaca cheese, go to my channel, and there is a video about how to make queso Oaxaca. And I'm going to put it into the comments. Because the name is in Spanish, and put it here. Queso Oaxaca. Okay. So this is how you spell it, because I know that the name is in Spanish and you don't know how to spell it. Go to my channel and you will be able to know to make this cheese. Or if you already know how to make mozzarella, just only watch how I roll the ball of cheese, and you will be able to sell your queso asadero in the country that you live. In your case, Manal, that you are in Nigeria, you can make Oaxaca cheese and sell it over there and have a business opportunity. Manal is asking me a question here. Let me see. When I keep a piece of Colby cheese in the cave without waxing it, is it contaminated with mold? Yes. Yes, it is. When you're making Colby is a cheese from UK, an English cheese. Making cheese, getting the cheese contaminated by mold, it will happen all the time. So don't worry, it's not the end of the world. When your cheese is contaminated with Colby, you need to do cheese, clean it with brine solution, okay? Get the mold out, clean it, and put it back in the cave. One thing, when you are ripening the cheese, sometimes you are making cheddar, which is a Colby. Colby is a type of cheddar. You are making Colby cheese, okay? And it gets contaminated with blue mold, because I'm pretty sure that the mold that you are getting is blue, or maybe a little bit dark. So if it is contaminated with this blue mold, if you are making camembert and you put it in the same cave, both cheeses are going to be contaminated with the blue mold. So your camembert, which is a white mold, is going to be contaminated as well with the blue mold. So you have to separate both cheeses. How do you separate both cheeses? What I do is I put my Colby cheese, to put an example, into a plastic container and close it up. And I put my camembert cheese into another container and close it up. If I get the mold, I'm going to get the mold only in the white on the Colby, but the blue mold I'm not going to get it in the white mold, in the camembert cheese or brie cheese. So of course, and depending and you can also control the humidity level. You can have in one container 95% of humidity level, but in the other container you can have 80% of humidity level if you put it in containers, in separated containers. So this is a very good way to ripen your cheeses. Okay. What I do, if you are making Colby, it's good after a certain time. First, clean the mold. Okay, clean all the mold that is been embedded with the brine solution, as I said. You can also use vinegar, and then in the last phase of your ripening process, of your aging process, wax the cheese. You can wax it, or also you can vacuum pack it. If you don't have wax, vacuum pack it. You can. These machines cost $60, and the rolls cost $10, and they have heaps of meters. So you can, instead of waxing it, vacuum pack it. I use both. I have 2 vacuum packing machines, and I also have wax. So depending on the cheese, both of them guarantee that the cheese is not attacked by mold anymore. And also, the wax and the vacuum bags will guarantee that your cheese is not going to lose moisture. Okay? I hope I have answered your question. Thanks to change the time. Yeah. Well, doesn't matter. It's all right. Okay, let's go with another question. Fernando, hi. before that, I congratulate you for your videos. They're excellent. But I need it's in Spanish, so I'm translating at the same time. You have one video missing: how to salt your fresh cheese. Okay, look. The thing is that to salt the cheese is very easy. You can salt your cheeses. Of course, yeah, you're right. I haven't made a video, but you're talking about, for example, Parmesan cheese. Okay, no problem. To make Parmesan cheese, the procedure to salt these cheeses is to drain the whey and leave your whey at curd level, and then pour the salt, and stir it and let it set for 6 minutes, more or less, 6-10 minutes, and then mold. This is one way, but you also can put it in brine, or also you can even spread salt after the cheese is mold. You can spread salt, dry salt, and rub it, and the cheese will absorb the salt. What I do is, as I said, drain the whey and then salt the cheese and stir and mix everything. Another way is to drain all the whey and then leave the curd dry salted, and that's it, and carry on with the molding process. The salting process, you decide the salting process. Of course, there are recipes that you can also follow, but at the end of the day, it's your decision. If you don't want to brine your cheese, you just want to dry salt it, it's your choice. The thing is that you have to put the right amount of salt in your cheese, because your salt protect the cheese. If you put not enough salt, your cheese is not going to be protected. Also, the acidity protect the cheeses. So if your cheese is too alkaline, which means that your pH is too high, it's not going to have the right acidity, and therefore your cheese is going to be invited by cross contamination. Okay, another question. Daniel, hi, cheese doctor. If I don't have citric acid, how much lemon juice can I use to make mozzarella? Okay, look. To make mozzarella with citric acid, or to make mozzarella, you have to have a pH of between 5.1 and 5.6. Sorry, 5.1 and 5.3. Sometimes 5.0, 5.4. I wouldn't say 5.4. I would say 5.0, 5.35. Okay. It will all depend of the level of calcium that your milk have at the beginning. And you have to acidify your milk. How you can acidify it? You can use lactic cultures, which is the traditional way to make mozzarella. Or you can use acid. You can use chemicals. You can use acetic acid, which is vinegar. You can use lactic acid. You can use tartaric acid. You can use vinegar from the supermarket. It will all depend on the amount. And you can use lemon juice as well. The thing is that if you use lemon juice, when you put, first you have to squeeze a lot of lemons, which is a pain in the butt. So if you use lemon juice, your cheese will also taste as lemon, and it's not very pleasant when you are making mozzarella and you're tasting it and eating it and it tastes like lemon. It's not very pleasant. So my advice, use vinegar. You can find vinegar everywhere around the world. And the thing is that you have to achieve your pH level. I reckon that for 2 liters, there is a video from myself making queso de mano, which is a cheese from Venezuela. And I use vinegar and I make the cheese. And the cheese, if you're using the right milk, you're going to get the cheese. Find out the amount, look for the amount, and I reckon it's 100 milliliters per 2 liters of milk or something like that. I'm not quite sure. Just go to a video and watch. I just made it. I don't use vinegar because it's too expensive. I use citric acid or I use lactic cultures. I use both. But lactic cultures, citric acid is a very fast way of making mozzarella and very cheap as well. And it's a good way to make it. Okay. Okay, let's carry on with another question. Let me see if we have another question for the audience. Okay. Oh, we're almost by the hour. We have 4 minutes left. It's been a while. Okay, let's go with this other question. Rose, I just arrived to your channel. Excellent. You are very professional. Thank you, Rose. Thanks for transmitting your knowledge. Very grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you as well. Okay, Graciela. Hi, doctor. To make queso sardo, which I'm going to make the video soon, to make queso sardo, how much whey do I have to use for each liter of milk? Look, Graciela, if you use whey to make queso sardo, you might have two problems. The first problem that you might have is that if your whey is not safe, you're going to have an unsafe cheese, because if your whey is contaminated with bacteria, these bacteria are going to pass to the whey, and these bacteria are going to contaminate your cheese. Okay. And what I mean by bacteria is not only bacteria; it might be also yeast, aerobic plaque count, Streptococcus aureus, and all this type of bugs and molds that grows and are floating on the air that might invade your cheese. So I would suggest not to use whey, use lactic cultures, and your process you're gonna have a guarantee that your process is gonna be safe, and your cheese therefore is gonna be safe. How much to use? If you are sure that your whey is safe, you can use for 8 liters, you can use maybe 125 milliliters for 8 liters of milk. Okay. It will depend. The amount of whey that you use will be linear with the rate of acidification. If you are pouring, for example, 150 milliliters of whey into 8 liters milk, and you are having a rate of acidification of 0.1 each half an hour, and you want to speed it up, you have to put more. Instead of 125 or 150, you might be able, or you might put 300, double. Therefore, because you have more bacteria, you're going to have more, and the same lactose, you're going to have the double of the rate of acidification. So you're going to accelerate it twice. So it will depend. You have to calibrate the process. But the other problem that you might have is that by putting too much whey, remember that when you are using whey, you're going to have 85% of your rennet into the whey. So when you are heating, if you are putting too much whey, when you heat the milk, once it reaches the right the temperature of the recipe, maybe your milk is going to be coagulated without putting rennet, because you already have it in the whey. So and therefore your cheese is not going to be standard, and your process is not going to be standard. So you have to follow the same protocol all the time. I never use whey. I only use whey if I make a cheese for myself. But if I'm making cheese for sale, I always follow the same protocol. I use lactic cultures according to the manufacturer specifications. If the manufacturer tells me that for 250 liters, I have to use 9 grams, I just made the linear conversion. If I'm going to make 8 liters, I have to use whatever. So follow this protocol and this procedure, and you're going to have any problem. Okay? Okay. Well, we are over the hour. Let's see if we can answer one more question, and that's it. Let me see. How can I talk to you, Dr. Queso? Well, you can find me in YouTube, you can find me in Instagram, you can find me in Facebook, and my phone number is public as well. But if you want to write me an email, go to drquesero.com. Sorry, drquesero@gmail.com, and you can find me over there. Okay. That's it. Let me finish here. Let me see if we have another question. No more question here. Well, Manal, thank you for coming to my program. Okay, I really appreciate it. And if you know someone that speaks English and want to learn how to make cheese, just spread the voice that I exist. And if you don't speak English and you speak Chinese, you also can use the streamer.center. Streamer, STREAMER.center. You can use streamer.center. Go to this platform, which is a simultaneous translation, and you can enter with the code guest01, and you can have translations in your language. Okay, I'm going to explain a little bit more in another program, so we can. I'm just new in this platform. I used it once, didn't work. But the thing is that my computer was very slow. Now it's getting a little bit faster because I just deleted a lot of programs, and now I am going to be able to use the streamer platform, so you guys can understand what I'm talking about. Okay. See you next week, and buy the shirt if you want. Okay, it's gonna. If you don't, doesn't matter. You'll help me with the channel, but what you should do is eat cheese, because life without cheese is like a love without a kiss.